Hey guys, it's Matt here with FamilyManTrading.com, and I'm going to show you the strategy tester here in a quick tutorial to show you kind of how to work through it and find the best settings for you once you get your hands on it. So here we're looking at the Aussie dollar on a daily chart, and you've got your indicator loaded up here. It should be the JBHP strategy, and all you need to do to go into the settings here is click the little gear icon either here, or if you're in the strategy tester tab down here, you can click it down here. Either one opens up the same thing. Now what I'm going to do is walk you through these and show you exactly what settings you can change to change and manipulate the on-screen display and the way the tester performs so that positions are taken accordingly for you. So here's one quick trick I want to show you. If you notice the screen is really wide, it has the profit and the drawdown and the win rate percentages and all this data stretched all the way over to the left. And when you bring this gear icon up, the window that covers this sort of blocks all the information down below. So what we want to do is get rid of that, and you can do something by just opening up your data window here, and it pushes this data over to the left, which is kind of nice. You can kind of move this and squeeze it together so that when you open up your settings, you can move this off to the right, and then you're not covering any of this, because as you see when I walk through this, what's going to happen is we're going to change these settings in the inputs, and it's going to give you different information over here, and that's what you want to look at to compare what's better when you go and change those settings. So let's jump right into it. As we walk through this, one thing I want you to look at is the numbers that are according to the questions here are related. So if you see a number 1 and then a 1A, that means that the next question under 1A is directly related to the first question. And down here you'll see 4 and 4A and 4B. Those are specifically related to how you answer number 4. And then 5, 5A and 5B, 5C and 5D. They're all related to the prior number. So let's walk through this really quick. Our strategy tester is built so that you can test a number of different markets, and currently it's set up for Forex, gold, and cryptocurrency. Stocks is coming, but it just requires a little bit more programming, which is on the way. So today I'm going to show you an example of Forex, but it works for any of these. You just need to pick which one you want to trade. Just be sure that you're picking the ones you are trading, because it calculates differently based on the type of market. So let's trade some Forex today. So we've got number 1 done. 1A, if you're trading stocks, do you want to limit the trading to only buys, only sells, or both? This isn't specifically just for stocks, but we put this in here because a lot of people don't have the $25,000 it takes to day trade where you can buy and sell stocks throughout the day multiple times. What we can do, though, is also restrict it on foreign exchange and cryptocurrencies and gold as well, where we can either take buys and sells, buys only, or sells only. For this demonstration, we're just going to leave it on both. Okay, number 2. What sub-strategy rule set do you want to use? On our website, and we'll put a link in the description here, you can see what all of these sub-strategies are, and we'll go through definitions for each. But for this, I'm just going to show you how we walk through the settings, and we'll click each of these. I'm not going to explain each one in here. Let's go ahead and leave it on base for now. Next question, number 3. Do you require setups to be in trend? All this means is that in our programming, we've made it so that the 240 weighted moving average is green if it's moving up, and it's red if it's been moving down. If you say that you would like the trades taken in trend, that means that if you're looking for long positions, this 240 line needs to be green. If you're taking short positions, the 240 line needs to be red. If you say no to this, then it'll take long positions even though it's red, and it'll take short positions even though it's red, and vice versa. So for now, let's just say yes, we'll trade with the trend, meaning we're going to go with the 240 moving average. Next question, number 4. Do you want to let the test account compound on itself or risk a fixed amount each trade? Well, all this is saying is, do you like to risk, say, $100 every position no matter what, and no matter what your account balance is? Or would you like to let your money compound? And as your account balance raises, so does the amount that you risk per position. You can change this by selecting either fixed or compound, and for the first example, we're just going to leave it at fixed. Now we see the first option here, 4A. This is the first time we've had a subsection outside of here. If you are compounding, what percentage of your account do you want to test per position? So what this is saying is if you came up here and selected compound, you want your money to compound for you, and at what percentage per trade. So for example, if you had a $10,000 account and you said you want to compound using 1%, if your balance was $10,000, then your next trade would risk $100. If you put this to 2%, your next trade would risk $200. And if it's a winning trade, it would increase the account balance and it would continually compound based on the percentage. If you said fixed and you were not compounding, you'd be looking at option 4B. If you are not compounding, how many dollars do you want to risk per trade? So here I've just automatically made a default setting of $100, and it will risk $100 every single position, regardless of what your account balance does. Something to note with the strategy tester is if you have certain options here where there's a subsection like 4A and 4B, depending on what you selected up here, these options won't affect the tester. So to be clear, what I mean by that is if you select fixed, the tester is automatically going to go down here and use the fixed number that you type in. It won't matter what you type in this box because you're not compounding, so it will completely ignore this box. And that happens with some settings down further below. So we're going to say that we're going to use a fixed amount and we want to risk $100 per trade. Next, the 5 series, question 5, 5A, 5B, and 5C, and 5D, all have everything to do with the stop loss and how much you're willing to risk. And then you have a function that will ask you what you want the reward to be based on the risk. So let's just walk through this step by step. First, let's answer question number 5. Would you like a fixed set of targets, meaning a certain amount of pips or points, or use the dynamic feature to set the stop loss? Let's talk about fixed first, and then we'll go into the dynamic feature next. The fixed feature will apply to 5A and 5B. If you select fixed here, how many pips do you want to set to take profit? If you put in 100 in this 5A option, you're telling the tester to take profit at 100 pips. Again, if you've selected fixed down in 5B, how many pips do you want to take for a stop loss? Again, if you put 100 here, it'll go 100 pips before taking the stop loss order. Now, if you want to use a fixed amount every single trade, mainly because you might go using an ATR or some other method where you know the daily amount that maybe your pair moves, you can stick with these fixed numbers. Here we're representing a 1-to-1 reward to risk, but if you wanted to change this so that it was, say, a 2-to-1 reward to risk, you could simply change this number from 100 to 200, and it will automatically alter that to a 2-to-1 ratio, and you'll see that the numbers and the data down here have changed. Something that we'll introduce here now that we're talking about the stop loss is when you enter these numbers, the strategy tester automatically calculates a visual display for you so that you can see on the screen how the trades are taking place. So when a trade is taken, you'll see a blue arrow. It'll say long or short, and then it will show you a white line. The white line matches up right where the arrow is, and that's where the price was where the trade was open. Also, over here in your data window, this icon here, you can read the entry price for long, the take profit line for long, and the stop loss for a long trade, and the same for short trades here. And when you highlight your price chart with your cursor, you'll see those values show up here and they're color coded. So for an example, I move my cursor over to this long position that you can see on the chart right here. And if I put my cursor here, when you look over to the right in the data window, it shows you the long entry price, which is white, the take profit line, which is green, and the stop loss line, which is red. And that's how you can tell what your prices are when you're entering the trade. Also, the strategy tester keeps a list of all the trades, and if you were to look back through your price chart and the list of trades, the entry price and the exit price would match, and then you'll see that it's taking the exact amount that you're risking. So let me back up and remind you. We asked the strategy tester to take a fixed amount and every single trade risk $100. Here we asked it to take a profit in 200 pips if it reached it, or to give us a stop loss order at 100 pips. So when you come down here and you look into our list of trades, you can see that this was a loss at 100 pips, a loss, and then we took a win at 200. So this is pretty easy math for you to see that the strategy tester is working using the fixed amount that you asked with a take profit and a stop loss ratio. Another thing I want to show you is as you change these figures, even though you change whether you choose to go with a fixed or a dynamic stop loss, when you edit these features here, the on-screen display will change for you as well, making it extremely adaptive. So if we move this back to our 1-to-1 reward to risk ratio, you'll see that it goes back where now the difference between the stop loss and the take profit are exactly the same, representing a 1-to-1 position. All right, so let's go ahead and move on now and cover the other way that you can do a stop loss using the strategy tester. If you didn't want to use the fixed system, meaning you set the pips for take profit and stop loss, you can choose the dynamic version. The dynamic version uses an option down here for 5C, meaning a look back period for either the highs or the lows to set the stop loss. What this means is you set how many candles back you want the strategy tester to look in order to find the most recent highest high or lowest low in that amount of candles. So for example, we're going to set this to 5. This is saying that look back over 5 candles for the highest high or the lowest low, and based on a long or short position, use that number or that price to set the stop loss. So let's take a look at an example over here using 5. Here we have a long position setup where we have a QMP filter dot. So our system, based on all the criteria that we're using, enters a long position. Because we're using a dynamic stop loss setting, we're going to look back 5 candles, including the signal candle where the dot appeared, and use the lowest low as the stop loss, because we want the stop loss to be below our entry price on a long position. So using this candle as our included candle, this is candle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're looking for the lowest low in all of those candles. And it happens to be this candle here. That price is going to be 0.68328, and so that's where this stop loss is set for our long position. As you move that, you're going to be able to see that it changes where the stop loss goes. If we were to increase this out to maybe 15 candles or 16, you can see now that the stop loss has changed because it's matching a low that's further out, which would be this candle here. And if you counted from the first candle of the signal back to here, you'd see that within 16 candles or the 16th candle, you have the lowest low, which now becomes the stop loss. This becomes pretty handy when you're doing some backtesting because you'll notice as you change that number, it automatically changes the stop loss and the take profit price and moves it accordingly so that you can quickly check how well the strategy does based on the candles that you look back. So let's go to another important feature using the dynamic stop loss setting. Because the stop losses will be dynamic every time, meaning not the same amount, like you can see here, where this one is much larger range than this one, and this one's even larger than this one. Because position sizing and the amount of units or lots that you risk are based on how far away your stop loss is from the entry price, the strategy tester does all the calculations for you. But in order to calculate your profit, the strategy tester needs to know what ratio you want to get out of your reward. So to simplify that, what we're saying is in 5D, if you're using a dynamic setting, what's the reward ratio to your stop loss? By default, it's a 1, meaning you're going to get 1 reward to 1 risk. So they'll be even. It's a 1-to-1 setup. Just like we changed the 200 pips here and 100 pips here for 2-to-1 on the fixed settings, all you have to do on the dynamic settings is change this number. And if you want a 2-to-1 ratio here, all you need to do is change it to 2. So now you'll see that the amount of reward that you get in a position is 2 times the 1 that you risk. And that's variable, so you can change it to 1.5 or to 3 or to 1.1 or whatever you want it to be set at. And then of course, as you're changing it, the values down here will change so that you can quickly see how well the strategy performs using that different variable input. And you can see that the data changes sometimes drastically based on what you put in there. And a reminder, all of the subcategories, 5A, 5B, C, and D, they only apply specifically to the setting of the main number. So if you put fixed for 5, it's only going to relate to these fixed values. If you pick dynamic, it's only going to relate to 5C and 5D because it needs to know how many candles back to look. And once it finds that value, what do you want the reward ratio to be to that stop loss? So now that you've seen me go through these, the bottom half of this is just telling the system where you want the testing to start and end. You'll see 3 boxes for start dates and 3 boxes for stop dates. These are pretty self-explanatory and you can use the hints next to them. So if you want to start testing from a certain day of a month of a year, just put that in the system. So if we wanted to start back from just 2020 in January, we would put in the year, we'd put January, and if we wanted to start from the 15th of January, we'd put the 15th number. That's how that goes, and if you want to open this up for a few more years worth of testing, you'd be testing from January the 15th of 2015. These are set by default to 2000 to go back as far as we can, and the 1st of January, and then set to 2050 at the end of the year, December 31st. This is so that you never have to change these for many, many years to come, and this will never actually go out to 2050. It only catches the current candle in the testing period. Something to remember with the year here, TradingView limits how many historical candles they produce for you based on your subscription and the time frame that you're looking at. So we'll go back a number of years on the daily chart, but you'll only go back a certain amount of months on the 15-minute candles. So you can still put 2000 as the year to start, but on a 15-minute time frame, it's probably only going to go back a few months in the same year that you're currently in. So keep that in mind, that it doesn't actually start at 2000 even on a 15-minute chart. It will only give you however many historical candles TradingView gives you in your subscription. It also won't extend out to 2050 because those candles don't exist yet. It will stop at currently the year is 2021, so it will stop there until the next candle the next year comes along. So now that you've seen all of the options, I'm going to walk you through how you can use this to your advantage, because you can see that the current setting is not very great. Using the Aussie dollar on the daily chart, we've only made 3% net profit out of 105 trades. Our win rate is fairly low at 34%, and we've suffered a maximum drawdown somewhere in this period here of 14.81%, which is not very tradable for me. These are all based on your personal settings, and the strategy tester inputs are so that you can fine-tune those settings as best you can to match your trading style. So what I'd like you to do is take a look at this example using the Aussie dollar, and we're just going to change some settings and watch how drastically the information down here changes, where you go from a poor trading condition to a favorable condition. So we're going to trade Forex, obviously, because we're using the Aussie dollar market. We want to be able to trade both long and short positions. We're going to use the base strategy, and again, you can see the link in the description that shows the definition of these here on our website. We do want to follow the trend, so we're going to go ahead and follow that. And instead of a fixed amount every single trade of $100, I'm going to allow my account balance to compound, and I'd like it to compound at 1.5%, meaning every time I take a trade, I'll risk 1.5% of my account balance. Next, what I'm going to do is remain on a dynamic system where the stop loss is figured based on the highest high or the lowest low, looking a certain amount of candles back. I'm going to set it to look just at the current candle, meaning the signal candle itself, and I want the reward ratio to be 1-for-1. Now you can see, using the base strategy, how quickly things have changed for us, where we've received 33% net profit over 130 trades. Our win percentage went up almost 25% at 57 now. We only suffered 7.28% drawdown, so it cut that in half. And also, this is only 4 bars average per trade. So usually your weekly trading is done. You trade and you're done before the end of the week. So let's change one more setting here just to kind of see what it might do to our data. Instead of the base strategy, I'm going to flip this down to the QMP dots only, meaning it's going to trade every single long on a green dot that's in trend and every single short on a red dot that's in trend. And now you can see, compounding at 1.5% interest on the same setup, I've now received 78% net profit, 61% win rate with 7.38% drawdown. Much more favorable equity curve, and now you don't have to spend hours and hours and hours back testing this. We do recommend, after you take these settings, that you go back through and you look at the charts and you figure out how it's making these trades so that they're familiar to you and they're seen visibly produced on the chart. This way you can trade live as they pop up and you see signals. And that's the way that you use the strategy tester with the QMP filter dots using Jim Brown's high probability system. And look for some other videos that we're going to send out for other strategies that we have and other indicators that are coming up. I hope this helped you, and I hope that you trade green, and we'll be talking to you soon.